Hey guys, I hope that you guys are having a great week so far. I know that a lot of days are starting to look very, very similar. You wake up and sometimes you don't even know what day it is. But it's Wednesday, and guess what? We're going to be making a craft. And I bet some of you are a little bit shocked right now. You're like, who in the world is that guy? It's me, Lieutenant Matthew. I did shave, so I'm looking a little bit different, but I'm still the same guy, I promise. Today we have an awesome opportunity to talk about love and obedience, and we're really going to talk about this idea of obedience. So if you have your family with you, or they're somewhere in the house or somewhere nearby, bring them over. I'm sure that they'll have a good time as we share a little bit of time together in these next few minutes. So again, I hope that you're all having an awesome week and you're staying safe. We're making sure that you're keeping your hands sanitized, washing your hands pretty regularly, social distancing, wearing masks if you're going out, and all of those important rules that we should be following. Rules. Obedience. Now there's an interesting concept. We're going to be talking about that very idea, obedience. I want to read to you guys a little story. There's a guy in the Bible, and his name is Daniel. Now, there's a few stories in the book of Daniel that are just fascinating, but there's one in particular that I'd like you to follow along with me this morning or this afternoon, whenever you're watching this. So if you have your Bible, go ahead and open it up to the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel, starting in chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6. I'll wait till you, so you can go ahead and get your Bible. Maybe it's on your phone, wherever it is. We're going to be looking at the book of Daniel, and we're going to start in chapter 6, and then we're going to start specifically in verse 6. Now, there's several things that Daniel was known for, but one of them in particular was his obedience to God. He loved God so much that it didn't matter what he was facing. He was going to obey God no matter what. That's pretty bold, and that's pretty cool to follow, especially for us so many years later when we're faced with our own difficulties in life. Daniel sets a really, really good example for us to love and obey God no matter the cost. So if you want to follow along with me, I know I've said it several times, but we're in Daniel chapter 6, starting in verse 6. And we're not going to read the whole thing right away. What I'm going to do is we're going to read just a little bit. We'll read to a real critical point in the story, and then we'll stop and we have a craft that we're going to do. The craft will be a good reminder for us as we go about our week. So Daniel chapter 6, starting in verse 6. It says this: So the two leaders and the royal rulers went as a group to the king. They said, "King Darius, may you live forever." All the royal leaders, high officials, royal rulers, advisors, and governors want to make a suggestion. We've agreed that you should give an order, and you should make sure that it's obeyed. Here is the command you should give. King Darius, during the next 30 days, don't let any of your people pray to any god or man except to you. If they do, throw them into the lion's den. Verse 8. Now give the order. Write it down in the laws of the Medes and the Persians. Then it cannot be changed. So King Darius put the order in writing. So we'll stop right there real quick. There's a lot going on right there, and there's some guys that are up to no good. They don't want anybody to follow God. They want everybody to follow just this guy, King Darius. And so they persuade King Darius to sign this order that for the next 30 days, nobody could pray to any other god, not even the one true God. That's what they're trying to order. Now verse 10. Daniel found out that the king had signed the order. In spite of that, he did just as he had always done before. He went home to his upstairs room. Its windows opened towards Jerusalem. He went to his room 3 times a day to pray. He got down on his knees and gave thanks to his God. Some of the royal officials went to where Daniel was staying. They saw him praying and asking God for help. So they went to the king. They spoke to him about his royal order. They said, "King Darius, didn't you sign an official order? It said that for the next 30 days, none of your people could pray to any god or man except to you. If they did, they would be thrown into the lion's den." The king answered, "The order must still be obeyed. It's one of the laws of the Medes and the Persians, so it cannot be changed." Then they spoke to the king again. They said, "Daniel is one of the prisoners from Judah. He doesn't pay attention to you, King Darius. He doesn't pay the order you put into writing any attention. He doesn't obey it. He still prays to his God 3 times a day." When the king heard that, he was very upset. He didn't want Daniel to be harmed in any way. Until sunset, he did everything he could to save him. Then the men went as a group to the king. They said to him, "King Darius, remember that no order or law that you make can be changed. That's what the laws of the Medes and the Persians require." So the king gave the order. Daniel was brought out and thrown into the lion's den. The king said to him, "You always serve your God faithfully, so may he save you." A stone was brought and placed over the opening of the den. The king sealed it with his own special ring. He also sealed it with the rings of his nobles. Then nothing could be done to help Daniel. We'll stop right there. We find that Daniel is in quite the predicament right now, but he was faithful and he was obedient because he loved God. It's a very interesting story for us to think about in our lives. You know, sometimes we're faced with situations, circumstances that we may not want to fully obey God. So we'll get back to our story in just a few minutes. We'll find out what happens to Daniel if you're not familiar with the story. If you want to take out, you received a craft this week from Nathan and Angel, again, who are working tirelessly to make sure that you guys have food and you guys have activities and you guys have crafts and all kinds of things to keep you busy, to keep you engaged, and to know that you are loved. And this week, we're making masks. And these aren't just any masks. These are top quality, the best of the best, Lions masks. Check that out. That is an awesome mask. Now, if you can see the lines, you'll know that this is not just a kitty cat. No, this is a ferocious lion. And the craft this week, you're actually going to be getting another one this week for Mother's Day, which is coming up. And I'm going to make another video that you can watch on Friday to show you how to do that craft. But today, we're going to be making our lions as a reminder, our lion masks, as a reminder of love and obedience. The love that God shows us and the obedience that we show to Him. You know, I was looking at this and I was thinking, you know, this is looking a little boring. So if you have, take out some crayons. Take out some crayons, and that's one of our favorite things to do, color. We're going to be coloring together, and we're going to color this lion mask so that we can enjoy and be reminded of what it looks like to remember obedience to God. So I'm taking an orange crayon right now, and I'm going to color his nose orange. You can color it whatever color you want. Now, I'm taking, what color is this? Bluetiful. Wow, they're coming out with some creative names, but I'm gonna take some Bluetiful and color the inside of his ear. It's blue, basically. So I'm gonna color the inside of his ear, and I think I'm gonna match the other side too with some blue there. Now all you had to do, there were only two things in the craft bag. Again, it was the mask and some red string that you're gonna use. We're gonna talk about the string in just a minute, but go ahead and set the bag aside. Go ahead and set the string aside for now. You can use it in just a minute. So I'm gonna put the Bluetiful down, and let us go with some red violet. Red violet's a nice color. We're gonna I'm gonna go ahead and color the inside of his mouth red violet. Now there's the inside of his mouth, and there's also the tongue. I think I'm gonna color the tongue something else, little bit different. Let's color his tongue. Let's do green yellow. Green yellow. They couldn't make a decision, so they made it both. Green and yellow. We got some green and yellow that'll go on his tongue. This is turning out pretty nice. I don't know if you can see this, but here we go so far. Pretty fancy lion we've got going on here. Now I've got some red crayon. How many of you love the color red? I know there's a lot of red fans out there. So I'm gonna color the fur around his head red. Fur around the head red. Now I wanna ask you a question. You know, are there some people in your life that we should be obedient to? You know, the Bible, before you answer the question, maybe you have some ideas in your mind. You can say them out loud. I think that'd be good. But the Bible talks about loving and being obedient to our mother and our father. And I think that's a very, very important thing for us to follow. We need to be obedient to our parents. We need to be obedient to our parents. Who are some other people in our lives that maybe we need to be obedient to? I think our teachers. Teachers have a very, very difficult job. They have to teach us. You know, they have to help us learn basic skills of math and reading and writing and science and all sorts of things. So being obedient to our teachers, that's an important thing to follow. Teachers are important people to follow as well. There's laws that we have to follow, you know. If you're driving, I know most of you aren't driving cars, but one example is if we didn't have speed limits, people would be driving and going all crazy. They'd be making up their own rules. So there's rules that we follow on the road. In stores, there's rules we have to follow in stores. Right now it's social distancing. We stand how many feet apart? 6 feet apart, right? So I've just finished up coloring the red around the lion's head, the mane, and I'm gonna color just one more space. I'm gonna go with purple. I like the color purple. We're gonna go ahead and color in kind of where the whiskers are of this lion. All right, so just about done coloring in this lion. So as we finish up, and again, you don't have to follow the exact same colors that I'm doing. You can pick all different colors. You can do any kind of colors that you like. It doesn't matter. You can do any of the colors that you like to do. So we're gonna go ahead and put that there. And from here, we're gonna go ahead and make our lions, we're gonna attach this string to the lion's, the lion mask. And this might be a little bit tricky. So you're gonna go ahead and there's been holes punched through to make it easy so you can put the string right through there, and you're gonna tie a knot. And if you don't know how to tie knots, you can find somebody that can tie a knot for you, maybe a couple of knots. There's 1 and 2, and the purpose of the knot is to help keep your the mask from falling off. So we've got one side on. What I'm going to ask that you do next is to actually put, maybe I need to do a third knot. You don't want to pull too hard on these because the hole might not be able to, might be a little bit too big for that. So just keep adding another knot and maybe one more. I'll do one more, see what happens. So we'll do 4 knots. So once you have your knots there, you're gonna go ahead and put it around your head like that. And you got 2 eye holes, and you're gonna go ahead and mark it about where you think is good, nice and tight, before you put it through the other hole. Here we go. That seems pretty good. So I've got my finger on my string about how far I'm gonna push it through to the other side. Again, you might need a little bit of help on this part, getting the yarn through and pulling it through. You might want to even put it on your head again. There we go. Right there, and we'll go like this. That seems pretty good. All right, I'm gonna take it off, and I'm gonna tie some knots again. You can tie as many knots as you need. Some of our heads are a little bit bigger, some of our heads are a little bit smaller. So again, you don't want to pull too hard on it, as the yarn might pull through. It's a pretty easy project, but it takes a little bit of time just getting these knots together. But as we do it, the reminder that, as you wear your mask, or maybe you put it up somewhere, that you are reminded of, what it means to be obedient to God. Now, I didn't forget, we do still have our story to finish. You can even put a little piece of tape on the end so that we know that the string isn't gonna, or the yarn isn't gonna pop through. But we're just gonna tie a few more knots just to get it nice and tight. Maybe you even have a more creative way to hold it together. I think that's totally fine. If you come up with a way that's better than this, that's totally fine. So I'm just gonna tie a few more knots here, get it nice and tight. A couple more. There we go. Like that. Well, make that a little bit. There we go. And now we have our mask. So I think I'll trim off this piece here on the end so we don't have strings hanging off like that. If you're using scissors, make sure that you have a parent nearby you, or have your parents or guardian or whoever's with you, an adult, to do this, because you don't want any accidents happening. So make sure if you're using scissors that you have somebody with you, okay? All right, that's that. And there we go. Pretty easy project. We've got our mask. Now, as you wear your mask, I'm going to set this to the side. I want you to think about obedience. Now, let's jump back into our story, and then we'll close with our time together, okay? We're going to pick up at verse 18 in Daniel chapter 6. The king returned to his palace. He didn't eat anything that night. He didn't ask for anything to be brought to him for his enjoyment, and he couldn't sleep. As soon as the sun began to rise, the king got up. He hurried to the lion's den. When he got near it, he called out to Daniel. His voice was filled with great concern. He said, "Daniel, you serve the living God. You will always serve him faithfully. So has he been able to save you from the lions?" And guess what? Daniel answered, "My king, may you live forever. My God the one true God, sent in his angel. And his angel shut the mouths of the lions. They haven't hurt me at all. That's because I haven't done anything wrong in God's sight. I've never done anything wrong to you either, my king. The king was filled with joy. He ordered his servants to lift Daniel out of the den. So they did. They didn't see any wounds on him, and that's because he had trusted his God. He had trusted his God. That's an awesome story. And we're going to close our time together with that. Daniel was saved because he trusted God. Daniel was saved because he was obedient to God. You know, when we're obedient, sometimes we don't want to be, but we know that we ought to be. The Bible teaches us and talks to us about how we need to be obedient. It's for our own good. And God saves us. He loves us. Will you pray with me? Jesus, we thank you. We thank you that you teach us how to be obedient. You don't just tell us to be obedient, but you actually teach us how to be obedient to you. We pray right now that as we go about our week, that we would be reminded by what Daniel did and what he experienced in his life. As he was obedient to you, he was faithful to you, and he knew that he was loved by you. God, we pray that you would continue to help us to learn to be obedient to our parents, to our teachers, to the laws, but most importantly, to you. Jesus, we love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Remember, there's a video that we're going to put out for Mother's Day, and there's going to be a craft. So be looking forward to that, and we'll see you next time. Bye.